Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio. Discover your spiritual gifts live.
Welcome to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts Live, show number 32. We're your host, Dave.
Vialet.
Our ghost today. Let's start over.
I almost say just leave it.
Okay, whatever. Our guest today is Jennifer Lonnberg. When Jennifer was very young, she saw angels and Jesus. She doesn't mention ghosts, but we'll continue. So Jennifer didn't realize that other people in her church didn't see them like she did. Well, then she became aware that church people thought that being psychic might be evil. So she had to learn to be careful who she discussed this with. Sometimes it even seemed like a curse. She eventually worked through these issues, talking to God and others and herself, and realized her gifts and has continued to expand on them. I've had readings with her. I've known her for a long time. What a fantastic person. So thanks for coming and joining us, Jennifer. Welcome today.
Thanks for having me today. I think it's hysterical that you started out with ghosts because I always laugh and say that I'm not a medium, and it's been coming up for me lately. I think it's funny. I'm like, there's another sign from Spirit. Just open up. So thank you so much for having me as a guest today. I appreciate it, and I love both of you guys, so I'm always honored to be able to be your guest.
Well, thank you. You can be our ghost, too.
You've been talking to too many ghosts lately, Dave.
I know. They're all around. Well, Jennifer, you get so many perspectives. You talk to so many people. What do you see going on these days? We're always feeling big energy shifts, big changes, evolution. People are talking about ascension. People are talking about going to 5D. What do you see is happening, going on? What have you been experiencing?
So it's funny that you say ghosts. I'm literally sitting here laughing at Spirit going, of course, that's how they would start the show. Because the one message that there's a couple really big theme messages that I've been getting a lot lately. And you know this because you and I have talked about this, and Violet as well, that we were going to start seeing more activity from, I really felt that coming, that there was going to be more activity from the spiritual realm. And so I think it's very appropriate that we start out talking about ghosts today, because the one thing that I'm noticing is more and more people are having more and more experiences that are more dramatic than before. For example, a friend of mine the other day was like, hey, there is some guy standing here, and I just realized he's not actually a guy. There's a ghost. I've had people telling me that they're hearing doors and things shut. I actually experienced that myself the other day. I kept hearing somebody was trying to open my door, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then I finally was like, okay, let me tune in here to see what's going on. And it was a message that was coming through, and they were literally almost trying to knock on my door to get me to pay attention. And then, just people understanding or being awakened to the fact that there's so much in the spiritual realm that we don't even realize, or that we've tuned out in the past, and that we're not going to be able to tune out, I don't think, much longer. It's not a bad thing, and it doesn't, not to be scary to anybody, but just understanding that in reality we do coexist, because we're all spiritual. We're just having different experiences of it. So the people that are already passed to the other side, with this ascension, I feel like it's blending the energy to become more congruent. The second thing that I'm hearing while I'm talking about congruency is I've been really getting messages a lot about getting past our mindset. Not that we don't work on our mindset, because we have to work on our mindset and clear that up before we can become what my guys are calling heart set. And that's where we really sink into our hearts and start living life from that place of our heart space, where we're making decisions more from being led by our heart and love and truth than we are our mind, because our mind kind of gets in the way sometimes with the limiting beliefs and things like that. And again, it's not that we're going to cut ourselves off the neck and only think with our heart. We have to have our brain, our mind, our thoughts, our emotions in congruency with the hearts and our feelings and what we really want in life. So there's that congruency there. And then the third thing that's really big as well, and I was talking about this with my own clients over the last, at least since like last August, I believe, August, September, the messages started coming. And it's like whatever we just moved through in the last like 4 or 5, 6 months, we've really been shown what's good for us, what's serving us, and what we really need to let go of. And we have to let go of things. And like before, I was explaining it to my listeners that like it's like we're moving through, like we packed our bags and we know what we're going to take, and we had to get really clear because we knew we weren't coming back to this place. So we had to pack everything that we thought we needed. And then we had to wait around. It's like we were just waiting for the car to come pick us up so that we could actually get on the road. And then we went on the road, and then we realized, okay, there's this huge cavern. Like we've got to jump across this gorge or this chasm or whatever you want to call it. Like this, like the canyon is there. So you've got to jump across it. So now you've got to reevaluate again, like what's in my suitcase? Do I really need everything that I'm taking, or is there anything that I can really let go of so that as I move over, it's not as hard to make the jump, right? Then what happened is like you could still kind of look back, that you could see that you weren't going to make it back over there. We had to keep moving forward. And in the last maybe 2 weeks, it's like when you look back, everything's crumbled. Like and the big message my guides are saying is that the way that it used to be, and anybody that's kind of caught in, well, this is how we used to do it, you've got to let go of that, because as we move into this ascension, 5D, whatever you want to call it, the way things were don't work anymore. Now, what that's going to look like and how that's going to show up for people, I'm still not even sure myself. But I know that we have to start being open to new ways of doing things and new ways of looking at things and new ways of, having perspective about things. Like all of that is coming from a new place and a higher perspective. And the whole point is to awaken us to the spiritual truths.
Well, that sounds great. I absolutely concur with everything you're saying. Something that really came up, all the astrologers were talking about it, was the conjunction of Pluto and Saturn in mid-January. Saturn is the rule maker. Saturn's going to control things. Saturn's the taskmaster, and Pluto's the little guy who comes in and wants to kick over the walls and kick down doors and say, come out, wherever you are, and, forget the rules. And, we saw that in the impeachment process, on what are the different views on whether, Trump was going to be stuck with the rules or whether he's going to, kick down the rules, that type of thing. But we're also seeing for people. And everything you're saying about, the past is crumbling behind you, that makes so much sense when you think about the astrology concept of Pluto going in there and breaking down barriers and leading to new insights. And I think this is going to be a big year for all of that.
I agree. And I feel like the next 3 or 4 years, we're going to see, we have to rebuild the foundations. Like the way things were, the way that things have been built, the foundations of things. And really, the messages I've been getting from my guides, it's everything. It's the foundations of our schools, our banks, our governments, all of those things, the churches, like everything is getting kind of an overhaul because it's built on a foundation that is no longer supported in this current energy. And so, it's interesting because it should be so exciting, but there's always fear in the unknown. And so we have to just be able to be in a big amount of faith and trust, which I am experiencing personally in my own life in a very extreme way. But it's just like, as long as I can just stay focused and remember that in spirit, and I have to laugh because if you're on my Patreon channel, I'm sure you're probably tired of hearing me say this, but I keep going back to my guides keep reminding me that all is well in divine truth. And so we have to just understand that whatever's happening is happening for us to expand, for us to awaken, for us to grow, for us to learn, right? Like all of those things. And so when we can do that from a place of positivity instead of fear, then it makes it so much easier.
When you talk about guides and others who bring you information, tell us some about who those are and what levels they work at, that type of thing.
So my core group has always been Jesus and the angelic realm. And I say the angelic realm because it's like all of the archangels come and go in different times. So depending on what I'm, like who I'm working with or what I'm working on or, what shows up, and that it depends on the angels that kind of fit more within that work that I'm doing. So I would say that Jesus is one of my main guides for sure. I've done work with Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene. And here recently, I have this core group that I call the celestial beings, because it's like the celestial group, and Jesus is there, Mother Mary is there, Mary Magdalene is there, and then there's some other higher beings that are very high vibration light. And there's a couple of Pleiadians on there. Like, it's this big group of all of these different people. Melchizedek comes in, Metatron comes in. It just really depends on kind of what specifically I'm working with. But I have actually just recently did, and this was the knock on the door that I wasn't expecting, and I kept thinking, who is trying to get a hold of me? And it was because it's not the normal energies that I'm used to working with. And so I'm so used to kind of feeling so much different energy around and so many different spirits around that I kind of have blocked out, and I just know, okay, well, my guides are coming, so I feel them, so then I tune in. But this was a different energy, and it turned out to be a collective of Pleiadians who are here to help us as well. And one of the things that they're teaching me and having me talk about is, and I'm positive that these are Pleiadians. They're fairly new. I've worked with some Pleiadians here and there, but this was a different group. And they're specifically here to help humanity. And what I've been hearing is breaking the dysfunctional human condition, and we've got to learn what radical responsibility looks like. And those two things are really, really like core woundings. And of course, it's exactly what I went through in my own journey in the last, 10, 12 years, however long it's been. And breaking the dysfunctional human condition, the way that I'm understanding it, is looking at things like, do we have healthy boundaries? Do we know where we end and where we begin? Because even though we're a collective and we are connected to everything, we're here for the sole purpose of learning. And that does put us in this individuality state, even though in reality, like in divine truth, right? So here we come back to the divine spiritual truth, we're all connected. But because we're here, we're learning something in this stage of individuality. And the more that we learn healthy boundaries and what it's like to actually have healthy relationships, once we kind of get through that, in breaking codependency and breaking enmeshment and all of these different things that we've kind of made a mess out of as far as in our human journey, we wanted to have that connection, but we've done it in a not healthy way. And so when we learn those boundaries and learn that, then we can come back to the collective from a whole different level. So it's learning our individuality so that we can then come back to being collectively loving everyone.
That sounds great. Thank you for sharing on that. I know one of the things that you really like to talk about or investigate is sort of the concept is using your gifts and the way you see them. Is that in some way contrary to Christian beliefs? And so tell us a little bit more about your thoughts on that.
So it's really interesting because I've always struggled with that up until about last November. And
okay.
I don't know why, but I had my own come to Jesus meeting for myself. And it was so bizarre because it was one of those things to where, okay, I have been like this from the day that I was born. And Dave and Violet, you guys both know my story, that I've always had these gifts. I didn't know that I shouldn't have them in the beginning, or quote unquote shouldn't have them in the beginning. And then around, high school time, I started being like, ooh, I better be really careful who I tell this to. And I went through the fear of, being, damned to hell because I was psychic, but I couldn't do anything about it, right? I was very active in church. I taught Sunday school. I did everything with my kids. I would pray and pray to pray. God, please, it's okay. Like, if this is who I am and if I'm damned, that's fine, but please protect my children. Like, I really struggled through that. And then what happened was I finally was so at my wit's end with all of it, that because the spirits and things were starting to get really vocal again and really in my face. And I finally, instead of saying, God, take it away, I finally said, either take it away or show me what to do, because I'd been struggling with it for so long at that point. And when I finally said, show me what to do, that was where my life lit up, and I stepped into this more fully. And I realized in the last few months I was still resisting it a little bit because of that fear. But there's a few things. First of all, I don't think that we're meant to be afraid of this. I think that that's been a way of being governed by the church to keep us afraid so that others can have control. Second, I think we are all born, and this is my personal experience, my personal opinion, we're all born with this divine connection. We just don't know how to access it because we've been trained out of it, right? So, like, think about when kids are little, they see somebody and they're like, oh, no, nobody's there, right? Well, really, there is. There's spirits all around us all the time, but we just don't see it. So as adults, like, we've kind of trained our little ones, and not intentionally, nobody's doing this intentionally, but we've trained them out of being able to see that spiritual realm. And then the dogma comes into play, right? And so then you're in this fear. But the truth is that we're all divine beings. We're all here on this experience. And the truth is God loves everybody, and it's time to waken up to it. And so to kind of get to the point here of what I'm talking about, and I had somebody really question me again, and it was around November. It was before Thanksgiving. But I remember, like, would have, like, really hurt my feelings, made me feel bad, maybe question myself or something. But in that moment, I was like, you know what? I am so done. I'm so tired of fear. I'm so tired of dogma. I'm so tired of people being afraid to really, truly connect to their divine spirit, their divine spark that's inside of them that God put there for us on purpose. And I've just decided it doesn't bother me anymore. Like, if you're stuck in fear, then I would really ask yourself, what are you really afraid of? What are the beliefs that are making you think that, right? And I decided in November, nobody's taking my Jesus and my Christianity away from me. Like, there's a million different religions. Okay, maybe not a million, but there's like over 47,000, I think it is, in just Christianity alone. just Christianity alone. So just saying that you're Christian, there's 47,000 different ways that you can explain what that is, and all 47,000 of them probably have different rules. Mm-hmm. Right? So, and that's just Christianity. That doesn't even talk about any of the other religions. So, again, I think this goes back to some of the foundational stuff, and we really need to look and reevaluate, is this truth? Mm-hmm. So,
and is it truth from within, or is it truth that you have taken on that others have gotten you to believe? I mean, that's the real key, is checking in with yourself and what's true to you versus what you've been told truth is.
Right. Well, and the thing is, like, the one thing that I know is this person that did that questioned me on it. I just told her, I said, you know what, if this isn't for you, that's no problem. Like, then that means you're not ready for this. And there's no harm in that. Like, everybody is in their own space, having their own journey, experiencing things, however they're experiencing it. And that's okay if that's where they're at. But the thing that we have to stop doing, and this is where all of the crap inside the media is coming up, is we have to stop, like, pointing fingers, making blame, calling names, like, all of this negative stuff how does that do any good? You know what I mean? Like, we have to stop doing that to each other in every level of life.
Yeah, because the point of being here is to learn to love each other, and I think we miss that sometimes. And, you know, I find even in my community, it's, you know, it's really important to me to meet people where they are. And, you know, it's not about you believing what I believe. That's not what this is about. It's about you believing what you believe. What do you believe? What do you connect with? Wherever that is, it's perfect, right? It's about meeting people where they are and going, you know, it's great. You know, whatever people believe, whatever they trust from within, wherever they're at, that's their journey. That's where they're at. I'm not here to convert you. You know, we were, you know, Jennifer, we were part of the churches. It was about converting people to our beliefs. I don't believe that anymore. It's not about me converting you. It's about you loving each other and finding your own way, whatever that looks like. I'm good with it. So,
I agree with that so much.
Right? It's not, and even when I teach classes, it's like, I'm giving you my heart, my belief from my heart center. It may not resonate with you, and it is okay to leave it at the door as you go out, but there may be other things that really resonate with you that you feel from within. Take those. Right. But leave the other behind.
Right.
You know,
and don't judge other people for what they are, where they're at either.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have the Christians that come and go, okay, you know, you've sinned, you've done this, and they're trying to convert me. And I'm like, I'm not trying to convert you to my beliefs. I love you right where you stand. I'm not trying to push you one direction or another. Please don't push me, right? I think we can find that space of compassion and understanding. That's a big growth for us, right? To be able to get to that space that my neighbor may not believe the same thing I do, and it's okay. It's okay with that.
And can you love them anyway?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's a really big expansion spiritually and evolution is us to be able to do that. So, and it's hard for people because they want them to believe the same thing they do, and it just doesn't work that way.
Well, and it's always, when you're in that space, it's always driven by fear.
Right.
Whether you realize it or not, right? But control is another form of fear, because if you're not in control, then what's going to happen, right? So that it really comes back to that, trying to control others. That comes, you know, kind of back to like the idea of the healthy boundaries and breaking the dysfunctional human condition, as my guides are calling it, because it's really getting into what is the fear? What is the fear? Fear is such a big thing. And it's funny how so much can be tied back to some kind of fear, whether you know it or not. If there's something that you disagree with or something you really don't like or whatever, chances are there's a hidden fear somewhere inside you. Unless it's just something simple like, for example, if you don't like peas, you just don't like peas. Right? But if it's something where you're really trying to conform somebody else to make them like peas, then that's the problem, because why does it matter if they like peas or not? And I know it sounds so silly, but that's exactly kind of what it is. Like, everything in life is divine, and when we can start to see that, then so much shifts in your life. So, yeah.
Well, I think we're hitting a nice place for a little break. We're going to talk about some great store offerings coming up, so please stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
Hi, I'm Vialet Rayne, Master and Teacher of Sacred Priesthood in the Mystery Schools here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. This is a program that I offer about once a year. We take on students to start this program. It's an 18-month program, which means there are 13 classes. We teach a class once a month, and we skip months with holidays. And on this path, men and women can come together to become sacred priests and sacred priestesses of the Order of Melchizedek. Melchizedek. The Order of Melchizedek is the oldest sacred priesthood on this planet. It was mentioned in the Bible and still exists today. This is about walking a path of beauty, sacredness, and service. It's about learning how to be a magical creator of your own life and using the universal mysteries to create whatever type of life that you're looking for. This path is filled with magic, about learning prosperity, about creating, about sacred geometry, about Kabbalah, about learning about the ascended masters, the archangels, the elementals, including dragons and fairies and unicorns and the mermaids. It brings all that universal wisdom together to create a way for everyone to have that joyful and abundant life that they've always wanted. I hope that you will check out our website under classes and look for Mystery School or look for Sacred Priesthood and find out more about these classes and what we have to offer. I look forward to seeing you in class, and I hope to see you really soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Well, welcome back to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts Live Radio with Dave and Violet and our guest, Jennifer Lonnberg. So, yeah, we were having a great discussion on church. I'll chime in a little bit. I really don't think that anything that deals with fear and using fear to control is a good thing. And I really look at the life of Jesus and what Jesus was trying to promote, and he was really helping with revising the view of God from the God of fear, God of contracts in the Old Testament, to a God of unconditional love in the New Testament. And when people, from my point of view, start distorting what the concept of religion is and saying, you have to be fearful. You only have one time around. You only have one lifetime. You better not screw up. You better not do these things. And even if you don't think you're a sinner, well, trust me, you are a sinner because you had original sin. And no matter what you do, you're going to be a sinner. So you better be penitent. You better hang your head and feel unworthy and blah, blah, blah. And I don't think that's what the message was. I think that's become if you view the church somewhat as being a political organization in terms of maintaining control from like 300, 400 AD when the Roman Empire, adopted Christianity all the way up to modern times. I've just seen so much of trying to control people through fear, and through this fear, you have to be baptized or you won't go to heaven, or you better not do this, you better do this. They're mortal sins. If you commit one of these mortal sins, oh my goodness, and it's, wait a second, you don't think God can handle that? I mean, that's a pretty small view of God, and I would prefer not to view God as a fallible human who has spite, and jealousy, and anger, and all these things, rather than the God that is such a great concept that we just can't even imagine how great that concept is, and not trying to set us up for failure, but trying to welcome us in success. So there's my 2 cents worth.
No, and I love that, because as you're sitting there talking, and you guys, this goes back to the way I was raised, right? Like, I was raised very traditional, old-fashioned church, and I was hearing how great thou art, right? So if God is really that good and so big and so expansive, how can we even remotely pretend to understand, right? Which is where I come in with, I know a lot of people, they think I shouldn't be able to say that I'm Christian and psychic, or call myself a Christian psychic, because I talk about Pleiadians and whatever, aliens, whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, but how am I to limit God that he wouldn't have creation somewhere else? And that's the only way that I can explain it, is the God I know is so amazing and so beyond anything we can even comprehend. I'm not going to limit that. So
well,
it comes back to being in trust and faith.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you talk about the idea that, can Christianity and those beliefs limit us to saying that people are the only sentient beings in the universe? And, we've had so much happen over the last 30 or 40 years with the concept of extraterrestrials being around us, being, in a lot of cases, very closely biologically related to us. And, one of these days when we have the full disclosure, when they land on the White House lawn and have pictures with the president, that's going to force a major conceptual shift in a whole lot of religions. I think we're the only thing. But even the Catholic Church, I think, as John Paul II acknowledged the possibility that we aren't the only ones in this universe. And so he was opening the door just a little crack there to say, we don't want to be found absolutely wrong on this when it comes to pass.
Right. Right, I agree. You just have to, somehow you have to be able to be okay with the idea that you won't know everything. And I think that's another big thing for humans. We want to think we know everything, and we feel like we need to be in control of everything. So really what I feel like is coming right now, and I think a lot of what this 5D or the ascension, again, whatever word you want to put with it, is really awakening us to the fact that there's so much more than we even may have even thought about, or a lot of us are, and especially people listening to your show, they're probably going to be way more open to this than somebody in mainstream media. But, it's still that space of like, you really have to be willing to be open to everything. And, just my own history, about the last book that I put out, which was The Secret Experiences of the Closet Psychic. That book, I did talk about some of the things that I've seen in my life as a kid and, whatever. So there's always been other beings around me, however you want to categorize them. So, but at the same time, I consider myself Christian because I love Jesus and I love the message that he had. And I even loved, I loved going to church all the time, and I loved Bible studies, and I loved, the community of it. It was really good. And of course, it always depends on the religion and the rules and your own pastor. And, because even within the same religion, there's different ideas based on the location of the church and the pastor that runs it and all of those kind of things. So, but I feel like, again, that's one of those things that is probably going to be shaken a little bit in the next few years at the foundation of it. And wouldn't that be something if it was an alien on the White House lawn? I love that idea.
Well, one of the best stories I heard about somebody slipping it in and that there's hope is a friend of mine went to a Catholic funeral, and due to timing or whatever, they had called up one of the retired priests. And being a retired priest, he's probably a little bit bulletproof on what he says up front. And doing this funeral, apparently this priest was very intuitive or psychic. And at the funeral service, he pointed to, he said, and I do see the dear deceased sitting right there in that pew, watching his funeral with us. He's here. And it's like, wow, that's amazing in a standard, Catholic funeral, to have a priest say that and admit to being intuitive, to be able to perceive that presence. Wow, that's starting to let some light in,
I agree. Oh, there's so many ways I could go in that story, and I'm not sure. I think I'm going to let you direct it because I'm not sure if I should go to some of those places right now. Oh.
Well, one of my favorite stories about you is a number of years ago when we were talking, and you were still living in the house in this area, and we've been concerned about some of the, frankly, not all ETs are positive and helpful and looking out for us, and there were some energies around you, and both you and your daughter, who's intuitive, started discussing the fact that you had some really big, I'll say badass ETs doing guard duty in your yard. Tell us about that one.
With a big old bazooka-looking things, and they had on combat boots, and they kind of almost looked like Predator, but they weren't bad. They were the good guys. Yeah, that was a funny story. Yeah, it's amazing. Like I said, it's amazing the things that I've encountered, and that was, it's so funny how that really lines up with. Then it wasn't long after that I moved. Remember? So it was almost like it was time to move on, and things started to change. And it's the biggest thing to do is, like you said, there's good and bad, quote unquote, right? Because we're in this experience, we're going to judge them as good or bad. The spiritual realm, of course, there's some of them that want us to stay in this, negativity pattern, because then that helps feed their energy of the negativity pattern. But then there's those that are wanting to help us. And the biggest thing that you can do within yourself is figure out, what do I believe? How do I feel? Am I feeling this? And if you are having beliefs, like, ask it. I love the why game. Like, I always laugh and say, how 4-year-olds just say, well, why? The more you can ask yourself why and really dig into the beliefs that you have, really gets us into the core of fear, right? Like, and I think it just comes back to that. I think all of these beings are around, and like I said, we're just awakening to things on a new level, but then also trusting and discerning, like Violet said, what's right for you, and not everybody is going to have the same experience, because we're not here for the same experience. And the other thing too is, if you're willing to open up to spiritual growth, you'll find love, if that's what you're looking for. But just like anything, whatever your mindset is, whatever you're looking for, you're going to find it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and being open to, or create, yeah, exactly. I've actually seen that, Violet. I've seen people that are like, I just really need help. I don't know what's going on. I feel like there's an entity around me. And when I go to look at it, I'm like, you just have so much emotional energy built up that it's literally almost taking on a form of its own. Even though it's not really anything, it's emotional energy that's kind of stuck in this conglomerated mess, and we can just clear out the emotions of it. So yeah, definitely you can create your whatever the energy is that you're feeling.
And that emotional energy can become something, right? If it's strong enough, if you keep feeding it, lots of energy. I'm sure Dave's seen that, where people, their emotions create these big energy pieces, and they come alive because we keep feeding it all this strong energy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, we've had a whole tradition in literature for centuries about, people who live a life in fear, and the fear overtakes them. And, it is a consciousness that they can create. It's a consciousness that can start manifesting around them. And, you could even say, well, look at the fears in Scrooge and The Christmas Carol. When he saw the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future, was he manifesting his fears? And, with a very positive outcome for him. But, we've long had that concept, and certainly you can energize things and put energy in them. And people who do some of the dark stuff, that they want to control or manipulate other people, they also find that energetically and through emotions they can put energy into that too, and sometimes manifest some things that are very undesirable. So yeah, we have a lot more control over our reality than most of us realize.
That's so true. So true. So, and I'm kind of like, it's kind of interesting talking about that, because I 100% believe you can create your reality. And then I think also a little bit beyond that, we have these like predestined things that we're supposed to experience. Like, whether you want to say that this, it's written in the stars, whether you want to say it's part of your astrology, or if you want to say that before you came down here you like put them in your soul contract. So I think it's all a combination of both, but the key is learning how to be in divine flow with all of it.
Right? Because there's an easy way and a hard way to manage or experience those things, and it's the way you choose to do it. And I know in my spiritual evolution, or as I've grown, certain things that would have happened in my life, years ago, I would have reacted and handled that so differently than I handle it today. And through that growth and evolution, you kind of shift. So there's an easy way to experience those things, and then there's a hard way, and we have choices.
Exactly. I'm so there with you. So there with you right now.
We have choices. We can allow them to bury us, or we can move through it. So,
right?
Right? And so
move through it with grace. Like, when you can move through it with grace, I think that's the best thing, right? Because then you're like, okay, well, this is what's showing up, so what do we do? Like, how do we, instead of being like, oh my God, my life's going to end because this isn't going the way I want it to, you can say, well, this is here it is. This is what's going on. So how do we handle it the best way? So, and I think it's definitely been in flow. I'm with you. Some of the stuff that I've been through in the last couple of years, if it would have been 10, 12 years ago, I would have been a mess.
Right?
Yeah.
And how I would have handled it would have been the hard way, and I would have made it so much worse than it really was, and I would have, drugged through it for months and months and months. And I know in today's world, I kind of try to flow through stuff and be like in this flow of, okay, I surrender to what's going to happen here, and what do I need to do to make this easy and graceful,
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important we point out to people too, though, that we're not advocating that you take on the mindset, there's nothing I can do about this. Sometimes the universe just poops on me, and I don't have any control over that. That's not it at all. It's the idea that life, your life chart, your path, whatever you want to call it, may send challenges to you, and rather than going out in the backyard and shaking your fist at God and saying, why are you picking on me? You look at that challenge and you say, I keep stubbing my toe on this rock. I need to turn it over and read the message on the bottom. Otherwise, I'm going to keep stubbing my toe on it. So why do I have these things continue to happen? What am I supposed to learn from it? And part of that learning may be to learn how to have grace, to have understanding, to look at the big picture. There's a number of clients where I've just had to kind of sit them down and say, look, you have this stuff going on, but tell me, are you worried about running out of air today? Well, no, of course not. Okay, are you worried about not having water for the next 24 hours? Well, no. Are you worried about not having food or shelter or clothing? Well, no. I said, okay, you're in a lot better position than a whole lot of other people in the world right now, frankly. But if you aren't worried about those, get out of, being the deer in the headlights point of view and start looking at how you're going to constructively work with this and learn from it and grow, rather than saying, poor me, and, life is, just going to hell for me. And because it's not. These are things that they're in the cards for you to learn from, and you can learn them gracefully.
Well, and that kind of comes back to, I know I've kind of had a couple people, I just sent a message again on my Patreon the other day, and I got a message from one of the ladies, and she said, I actually just quoted you because this hit me kind of hard, and I'm trying to process through it, but I think it's also really valuable because I had mentioned that when we can learn to take radical responsibility for everything that's happening in our life, and people that aren't ready to hear that will immediately argue and say, no, this isn't you. I had nothing to do with this. This is not what, this is not my fault that this happened. I'm like, that's not what radical responsibility is. Radical responsibility isn't saying that anything that was done is right or wrong. Like, we're not saying if somebody does something bad to you that you created that. It's just that you've experienced it. And so the radical responsibility part comes in when you can say, okay, this just happened. Now, how do I want to respond to this? How am I going to process it? Is there emotions within myself that I need to look at? And you work through it instead of just blaming the other person for whatever happened, right? And it's a big concept to get, but I think the more people can be in that space of being consciously aware of, first of all, their intentions, second of all, the way that they're reacting to things. Are you reacting with a knee-jerk reaction, or are you taking a minute and saying, okay, let me take a breath, and I'm going to say, okay, now I'm going to get a full idea of the situation and then respond. And I think we're so used to that knee-jerk reaction, right? And this is such a big thing. Like, I teach on these topics all the time because it's so huge. But really, the radical responsibility, breaking the dysfunction of, codependency and enmeshment, and then really learning how to do forgiveness in a way that actually works, right? And then just getting your life into a state to where you're at peace enough to be able to handle whatever happens, like whatever comes. You can have a peaceful way of looking at it and working through it, and it's kind of like so. I know a lot of spiritual teachers like cringe when I say this, but life's not always sunshine and rainbows and unicorn farts. Like sometimes there's just stuff that happens, and you've just got it. Like it just happens. And there's a lot of teachers that are like, no, if you're really, everything's always in divine flow and everything's rainbows and it's so wonderful, and I don't ever let myself get upset. And I'm like, well, then I don't know what reality you're living in, but it's not the one that I am. You know what I mean? And I think that's the other thing too is understanding that even if you're on a spiritual journey, when things come up, they come up. It's not about if they happen or not. It's about how you handle them.
Yeah, I would say the people who are spiritual teachers, I'll just say at that special level where they have a lot of like class participants, and they say, oh, my life is perfect, it's running, yours life can be perfect too. And it's like, okay, you've walled yourself off from direct interaction with a whole lot of people and a whole lot of life, because it's one thing to say I don't have these events happening to me versus I have these events happening to me. The other thing is part of life is having those events happen to you. And so the big part is how do you respond to it, just like you were saying. And so for somebody to say my life is all rainbows and rose-colored glasses, then you just say that just doesn't ring true for me. Are you hiding in a cave and somebody brings you porridge to feed you and you don't interact with anybody? So you're not really living, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, and part of it too, is just. It's literally like if I compare my life now to, again, 10, 15 years ago, whatever you want to, if I look back then compared to now, there are drastic differences. I mean, and really compared to what I had then, my life is sunshine and rainbows now compared to what it used to be, right? Because I've learned how to change my own mindset, which then changes what you create in your life, right? And I've learned to step into that idea of living in grace where you can look at things and say, okay, well, this just happened, now what? Instead of just, oh, my God, you know what I mean? So it's all of that and none of it all in one thing. It's learning how to become a conscious person and actually intentionally create what you want to have in your life while still understanding that life happens and it's okay.
Well, there's a classic phenomenon in psychology called cognitive dissonance, but basically there's two rules there. If you're unhappy with what's going on, you have two choices. One is you change your views about it, or the other one is you change the circumstances. And but I have my tongue-in-cheek third option there. If you don't do either one of those, you go nuts. That's a very scientific explanation. And these days, I find a lot of people who I have to talk them through that because they are in a bad situation and they are unwilling to change their beliefs or views about it, and they're unwilling to do something to change the situation, or they feel powerless, or they can't fix it, that type of thing. And it's like, well, I hate to tell you what the third option is, but you're approaching it. You're go nuts if you don't fix this. And so they are being forced, whether you call it a spiritual traction or whatever you want to call it, circumstances, but they are being put in a position where they have to grow. They have to move forward.
Right. Well, and the other thing is, too, some people aren't going to. Some people are going to stay in that lower victim, life happens to me, nothing goes right, because that's where they have that choice, and that's okay, too. So, which is really weird to hear people say, right? But if people don't want to change, it's like the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So everybody gets to have their own experience, and they get to choose however they want to choose. But if they're looking for answers, then they've got to be willing to actually change something within themselves.
Yeah.
How did we get in such deep topics? I'm telling you, this energy the last couple of weeks has been big, hasn't it? I don't know about you guys, but I personally am experiencing these big, deep like deeply looking at life. And I'm like, wow, we're going there right now too.
Absolutely.
So lots of big stuff happening for sure.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I'm running into, I'll say, more powerful dark things showing up around people when I'm doing clearings. And again, I think they're upping their game. You know, as we all go upwards in vibration, then the universe sort of has a yin and yang there. And so as we get more powerful, more in tune with what we can do, then our challenges get bigger in terms of the entities and the energies that we're dealing with that are need to be taken care of, I'll say.
I have not actually the last few weeks, because I actually a while ago told my guides, I'm like, okay, I need to peace out for just a few minutes. So I actually am lucky. I have not been dealing with that a whole lot lately. There's been some things here and there I've had to clear, but nothing too major. But again, I think, so this is the beautiful thing about the collective, right? So all of us that are on me, you, and Violet here, everybody that works at the store, like all of the group of people that are even listening to this on some level, they're all light workers, right? And so the good thing is we kind of get every once in a while pass the baton, and because this is like a relay, right? And like, so I was like, okay, I got to pass the baton. I need a little break. So I know that where I've kind of been able to take a step back from clearing some of that stuff, I know others who have stepped into it. And it kind of comes back and forth. Like that's one thing that I've noticed is sometimes when you get too, like I had so much going on in my own personal life the last few months that I was lucky enough to say, okay, I'm going to step back from this. But not saying that I don't do the work, but I've been doing a lot of different kind of work lately. Mm-hmm. So we did clear quite a bit of energy over the holidays, which was really interesting. But again, it was actually, I haven't asked my kids if it's okay, but I'm just going to share it. So we were at, the kids have moved here in Kansas, and they were very close to a cemetery, and there were a ton of spirits there. And I was like, what is going on? Like, why are there so many here? And they said, well, this is God's country. And I said, well, I understand that, but why are you here? Like, why are you not going there? And they're like, well, we're waiting. And I'm like, you don't have to wait. You can go now. So I took a whole bunch of people, and we took them. I called in the angels, and we let them go into the heavenly realm instead of waiting. But I think, again, this comes back to what we've been taught in church, right? Is like you have to wait for the rapture. That's kind of what they were doing. So they were all just kind of conglomerated there waiting, and I'm like, no, let's go ahead and let you guys get over there now. There's no reason to wait anymore. And I'm not 100% certain, but my guess is, and I'm pretty certain, that probably whatever churches they grew up in, you didn't get to go to heaven until it was time to go. Time for Jesus to come back and get
comes
you.
And blows his blows his trumpet and brings you out of your graves. Yeah.
Yes. So it was really, so that's the most I've had to clear here recently. Anyway.
Okay.
So,
that's a fascinating picture. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Well, we're getting towards the end of the show, Jennifer. Tell us what services you provide for people and how they can reach you. Well,
my website is kind of under construction right now. I think it's almost good to go, but probably Facebook. My business Facebook page is probably the best place right now. Or they can email me, and it's jennifer@jenniferlonnberg.com. Facebook, again, is probably by far the best. Right now, I'm actually kind of at max capacity, so the only thing that I'm offering for new clients right now in this moment is my Patreon membership. So Patreon is a new platform. It's an app, or you can get it online. And so if they go to Patreon and then my name, Jennifer Lonnberg, they can sign up to it's a $5 a month, and that's it. So $5 a month gives you a membership. You get weekly readings, monthly meditations, any messages that come in from my guides. And like sometimes it's 3 or 4 a week, and sometimes it's 1 a week. It just depends kind of when my guides are chatty. I bring the messages through, and then I do the weekly card readings every week, so there's always divine guidance every week. For now, probably for the next couple months, that's all that I have until I can get my website resituated, because I'm right in the middle of redoing all kinds of stuff and hoping to bring everything to where I can house it all within my website. So any of the classes that I teach or the membership that I have or anything like that will be on that site. Aside from Patreon, because Patreon is super easy because it's an app on your phone. And so right now that is the best way. I will get back to offering readings and energy work and things like that. But for right now, Patreon's kind of my main focus until probably, I'm guessing, well, this is already late February, so probably the end of March, early April. And also, Patreon's actually the best place because they're the first ones that know if I have any openings or if I have any offerings. So like the new classes that are coming and things like that, Patreon, they find out first.
And how do you spell Patreon?
It's Patreon, I think. Patreon, I'll have to look it up. I don't know. You put me on the spot there, Dave.
No, I just want to make sure people can find it easily.
Yeah, it's patron with an E. So patreon.com and then my name. /Jennifer. So, and again, on my Facebook page, you can find everything, and that's easy because it's just my name. So it's Jennifer Lonnberg, Embodied Grace.
And your last name is spelled Lonnberg, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yep, and the business page is Jennifer Lonnberg and Embodied Grace, which was, you guys know, my whole program is all about learning how to embody grace, and so everything's kind of built around that.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. This is a lot of fun. It's always great talking to you.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate you guys so much having me on, and I miss you both. I can't wait to see you again.
We can't wait to see you.
Yeah, find your way over here. You know, give up Kansas. I'm from Kansas. It's a good place to be from, you know.
Yeah, we'll only be here for about a week, I think, and then we'll be back in Colorado for a while, and then I don't know where we're going after that. So.
Okay.
Yep, lots of fun.
Well, thank you so much. And to all our listeners, thanks for listening to the show. Our next guest is Don Moreau. Please stay tuned. We're going to highlight several of our practitioners here, and they have great messages for you. You take care.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Serta. I first began communicating with spirit guides and angels at the age of 4. My gifts evolved with my first medium experience when my biological grandfather came to me to help comfort my mother during her grief. In my mid-30s, I connected to earth energy for grounding and meditation. This was how I was able to connect the dots on how my gifts can assist others. I work with clients who are looking for deeper clarity in life and provide channeled messages and techniques for clients to tap into their own soul voice. My sessions typically involve tuning into earth energy and spirit rock readings, channeled messages from spirit, and spiritual coaching. I'm available Mondays and Fridays from 10 to 5, the second and fourth Saturday of the month from 10 to 5. You can see me for an appointment at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. The best way to schedule an appointment is via my email at sserda@msn.com, or you can send me a text or give me a call at 303-229-5616.
I am Deborah Peter. I am a craniosacral therapist. I had a career in accounting and finance for 20 years and had an opportunity to change pathways and decided to pursue a career in massage therapy because I was fascinated with the body. And that career in massage therapy then led me to craniosacral therapy. Craniosacral therapy is a body work modality that works with the nervous system and is beneficial for anything that the nervous system plays a part in. That includes trauma, any tension patterns in the body that are being held by the muscles or the fascia, headaches, chronic pain or any pain that the medical community has not been able to find a reason for. So basically anything that the nervous system has a part in. A session is often generally 60 to 90 minutes long. The person relaxes on a massage table, fully clothed. The session can sometimes involve dialoguing or the person is just able to go into a deeply relaxed state. The therapist, myself, looks for tension patterns and feels for tension patterns in the body and looks to help the body release those tension patterns. In this world, we're often in a state of fight or flight, and this work helps bring the body down into more of a rest and digest space, which is really where healing happens, because the body has its own way of healing, and I'm there to support the person in their process of releasing restrictions and tension patterns and emotions that are often held in the body and limiting their ability to fully engage in the world. I'm available Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. I have offices in Inglewood as well as Littleton here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. If you'd like to schedule an appointment, you can reach me at my website at harmonyridgemassage.com, or you can give me a call at 303-725-5800. I also offer a 20-minute free consultation over the phone if anybody's interested in more information or to find out if craniosacral therapy could help them with anything that they're dealing with. I look forward to working with you.
Hi, my name is Christina Morris. I am the founder and president of Balance and Bliss Energy Healing. I'm a medical intuitive and high vibrational healer. I work with the energy fields. My scope of practice is energy medicine. Anything above and beyond that, for outside care, we'll need to refer you out there. But I do use crystals and aromatherapy in my healings, and I help manage pain. We help move some of the pain out of the body that might be coming from stagnant energy within the field, as well as, we get to the root of the problem with, any emotional trauma and find out what's going on that could be causing more stagnant energy to be left in your aura, which in turn can cause illness and pain and a lot of other issues that we tend to see throughout our day-to-day lives. And then I can be reached by appointment. You can make appointments anytime, any day of the week. I do work Monday through Friday in the evenings from about 5:30 to 8:30. Your first session can be about an hour and a half because we get to know one another. We kind of go through what's going on. And then any session thereafter would run about 50 minutes to an hour. And I can be reached through my website at balanceandblissenergyhealing.com. My email is balanceandblissenergyhealing@gmail.com. And I can also be reached via phone or text at 720-696-0286. And I look forward to any, potential clients. If you have any referrals or if you are in need of any of my services, I look forward to working with you.
Discover connection, awaken sacred